Welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. I'm Stuart Welbourn, a British author and former therapist, and each week I sit down with Wa-Na-Nee-Che, a spiritual elder from Turtle Island, to explore the deeper truths behind healing, ceremony, and connection to Source. Right, we're obviously not doing it live on YouTube because I thought we'd get a bit screwed up again with the fact that I don't know. We're not in sync at the moment, are we? Because your clocks went forward 2 weeks ago, was it? And ours don't go forward till next week. So viewers and listeners, sorry we missed an extra week. We said we're going to miss 1 week, and we ended up missing two. And we're not going live this time because I know we'd get it wrong. But starting next week, we will go live on YouTube again.
Yeah, because I had a powerful vision that lasted almost all night.
All night?
Yeah. And woke up, but I was in a conversation with the universal energies. And they gave me enough information that I understood a lot of things now about the mind versus the life force energy. That was the conversation and everything. And they also explained why people are going to hatred rather than finding their own life force energy and becoming balanced.
Are you going to share what you've learned?
Well, it started off kind of funny because it showed me how people were going and elevating more into the hatred part than into the love part. And that the battle between the mind and the life force energy was in full swing. But the mind was so powerful over the years that it overwhelmed the people. The people have moved away from the life force energy understanding, finding their own connection, and being intuited to use their mind and be controlled. They said a simple way to explain that: how many people get sick after listening to commercials after a while? Because the worry is you're going to get sick. You sit there, about an hour later, another commercial, you're going to get sick. You need this medicine. An hour later, it comes out again, you're going to get sick. You need this medicine. Until the mind completely is taken over and they start to, in the subconscious, controls them to start doing things they shouldn't be doing. Well, they do get sick because, again, the mind is very powerful. The mind basically gets them sick so the pharmaceutical companies can get rich. And the retailers can get rich because you can't live without this. You need this. If you buy these shoes, you can run faster.
That's hardly a revelation, though. We've known that for a while. You've talked about that before. What was this about? You said in your vision about hate.
Well, first of all, it was explained that way so they could kind of get me into the mood.
Ah, got you.
And then they said, okay, people have to start realizing that negative energy is produced when the sperm develops into an egg into the woman's body. Because the egg becomes a fetus and it's attached to the woman's thoughts go into the baby. Like if you keep saying, is it a boy or is it a girl? I wonder if it's a boy, I wonder if it's a girl. It confuses the fetus.
Okay.
So when it comes out, whether it's a boy or a girl, they're confused. So that message is actually passed on to them through their mother. Hatred is passed on. Ideas are passed on. So they said women have to be very careful when they're pregnant on what they do and what they say. They need to give positive energy to the fetus so that when the fetus comes out, it's healthy, but it also is not intimidated already by suggestions that the mother gave.
Well, in this day and age, it's going to be very hard to avoid subliminal messaging from, like you say, adverts, social media, the news.
That's why it becomes very important for the CD that more pregnant women should listen to the CD so that they get the right messages. And they have to basically avoid certain things. And it's just like if a woman stands in a doorway too long when they're pregnant, the air goes into the vagina and into the fetus, and it may even affect the fetus. It may cause brain damage. So we had a long conversation just basically trying to understand how people can prevent a lot of things. And they said that the CD was a very important tool because it goes into the subconscious and it starts to bring out things that control you that you can basically overcome, that you can get rid of it, get rid of all these subconscious ideas that come to your head and get rid of them. And the CD helps you to start thinking positive.
Well, that's what we need. A lot of people need, me included at the minute.
And that's why I said the CD itself, once your subconscious starts getting clear, that's when the medicine cards work better. Because now you're not control. As soon as you say, oh, your mind kicks in. That's what it means. Rather than getting the picture from the energy itself, saying, this is what it means. So they start to understand a lot more because they're utilizing their life force energy to interpret and not their mind. So that's why I say the CD helps you get away from your mind control. And it allows you to start seeing things that you need to see, and they tell you certain things that you need to do in order to transform yourself into the energy dimensions that will start teaching you your gift. That's what I always say, you know, when a woman gets angry when they're pregnant, think of something funny right away and start laughing because then the humor. And when the baby comes out, there's a lot of understanding of humor as a healer.
Anything else then in your vision? Because you said it was an all-nighter.
Well, that's about it. And then they said, if people are interested, they'll ask the questions, then we'll give them the answer.
For listeners or viewers, when he's referring to the CD, if you're not sure what he's talking about, he's on about his guided meditation, which you can get for free if you go to humancircleoflife.com, fill in your details, i.e. name and email address, and you get it free, sent to you.
He also said that human beings are a bunch of stupid people. They said they sit there and they sign all these petitions and marches against Trump. Why don't they send letters and a petition to their Republican representative and saying, we're not going to vote for you if you continue to follow Trump? And when they find out that they're not going to be a Republican senator or Republican representative, House representative, I think that would change your mind because they will say, hey, my constituents aren't going to vote for me because I'm not representing them. I'm representing Trump.
Yeah, he's going a bit more batshit crazy, isn't he?
Yeah, because as long as you do your protesting, as long as you do your venting against Trump, it's not going to do any good until the power is in the Congress. And if you don't get Congress to move, Trump can do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, but he doesn't even know what he wants, does he? Because, like, with Iran, we've won the war. We've wiped them out. We don't need anybody's help.
Yeah.
NATO, you're a bunch of lazy cunts. You didn't even do anything in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars and all that kind of stuff. And then he wonders why, and he calls like our Prime Minister, oh, he's not Churchill, which he isn't. I'm not saying Starmer's a great Prime Minister, but he's handled it well. And then he wonders why nobody wants to help him.
Well, that's just like it. He said that we don't need anybody. We can do it ourselves. And all of a sudden, could you send ships to the Strait? We need help from all the countries. And then when the country said, well, you're the one who started the war. It's your war. So he says, then he criticizes him and say, you're not interested in him. What the hell is he? He should have been asking for help when he first went in the first place, not even gone in. Because,
Exactly.
you know, whether Wichkoff has nuclear weapons or not, Iran really doesn't have to be feared for its nuclear weapons. It's Russia, China, North Korea. That's the ones that basically, you know, if say for instance Iran started using nuclear weapons, the world would jump on them. We're starting something. But instead, because he's power mongrel, you know, he wants to take over Venezuela now. He wants to take over Cuba.
Cuba now.
Yeah. He put a blockade around Butte, and people are dying there because they can't get any oil or anything for their energy.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah. So he's a devil in disguise, I guess you would say.
Well, not a very good disguise. I'd have picked a better one than that.
Yeah.
Should look like me.
Just like the war in Ukraine, it would have been over a long time ago if he had backed Ukraine, but instead he backed Putin.
Putin, yeah. Right. Trump, he disrespected NATO people, the allies that went into, Iraq, which was an illegal war, so they say, and Afghanistan. And, British troops, we lost quite a few, not as many as America, obviously, but to say that, NATO didn't support America, it's not surprising that the UK didn't want to send anything to help, is it? Sorry, my cat's very loud, isn't he? I'll let you carry on talking, and I'll mute myself now.
When he was running for presidency, right? I will not start no wars. I will not go into the Middle East and start any wars. So what's the first thing he does? Goes after Venezuela. Then he goes after Iran. And I got a feeling too that the Prime Minister of Israel is actually a Nazi. Israel is turning into a Nazi country. And they're the ones who talked Trump into going to war. And even the Vice President Vance said that we were pushed into war by Israel. They convinced Trump to go in, and now Trump's paying for it. And Israel's paying for it, not realizing that Iran is a little more tougher than they thought it was.
Well, we're all paying for it, aren't we? I don't know how much your fuel's gone up, but diesel.
Well, it went from 256 in California to $8.
Wow.
And
Is that
now,
a gallon?
yeah, the governor is basically put together a committee to find out how many gas stations are gouging the people.
We're getting that over here as well.
Yeah, we went up to $3.99 from, I think it was 215 to $3.99 now.
Is that a gallon or a litre?
Yeah, a gallon.
Right, over here we're pay. Right, petrol is about £1. Was it 40 something? Roughly £1.40 a litre, not a gallon.
Yeah, so that's supposed to be about 580, 480 to 580.
And diesel's even more expensive, and my car's diesel.
Yeah, diesel jumped like hell, and they're the ones who bring all the food and everything. Now the food just jumped almost 20%.
Yeah, so like.
Well, they have
the Cheeto Mussolini, as they call him, is like making us all skint, isn't he?
Well, he was already on the bottom end, but the polls, even with the Republicans, showed that he was still 40. He still had 45% favorable among the Republicans. He did a poll last week; it dropped to 29.
Well, let's hope it keeps dropping then.
I think the lady said it right. She said, "I voted for Trump 3 times until I finally realized I was the idiot." That went viral. I mean, on YouTube and everything. A lot of people, so a lot of Republicans are turning against him now. But like I said, it's not going to do any good until you get Congress to impeach him and put him in jail.
Sooner the better, really. And it's not the politics anymore of left and right. It's like he's batshit crazy, and like he says one thing 1 minute, and he doesn't even say it, does he? He just rage tweets at like silly o'clock at night, doesn't he? And goes, "Rah!"
Now you look at Russia for a minute. Russia's sending missiles and information to Iran because they want the United States to stop sending missiles to the Ukraine, because the United States needs the missiles for their own war. So it's a strategy by Russia to basically stop the missiles going to the Ukraine, because the Ukraine is knocking the shit out of Russia.
And Trump's eased sanctions against Russia, hasn't he? Said that oil and gas could come through or something.
one thing I have to basically respect Iran. I mean, not Iran, but Ukraine, is that almost 99% of their targets are military or something. It's not going against the citizens. It's going against structures within Russia itself, and they've become very, very successful in doing.
Well, you gotta admit, it's gotta be embarrassing for America that Iran's not going that well for them because
Well,
it's supposed to have been a quick thing and it's obviously dragging on. Uh, and you have got the most powerful military in the world, allegedly. So the fact that it's not going too well doesn't reflect well on you, does it? Amongst other things.
we may have the most material and the most, but right now, probably the best fighters and the best army in the world is the Ukraine because they stopped a world power.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, Iran. I mean, obviously, Iran's got its issues with its, who's in charge sort of thing, but they're holding themselves up against Israel and America at the moment. I know they're not inflicting as much damage as Israel's doing on them, but
I think Iraq proved it and Afghanistan proved it. Our troops aren't well trained. And they're sending all these troops that are not really trained into possibly Iran as a ground operation. A lot of them are going to get killed. And it's like they said, when they brought those it was the 6 servicemen back that had been killed. Trump didn't even have the respect to take his golf cap off. Everybody else sat there and they saluted and they had their caps off, and he just sat there like, oh, so what?
well, I do recall. I think this was in his last term, was it, when he said that joining the military, you suckers or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he said, yeah, they were dumb suckers. The other thing that I realized too is that Russia had the powerful military, but they weren't trained. The United States is making the same mistake because our troops aren't trained to modern warfare.
I think there's also that kind of a little bit of ego that America has of thinking that it is the best at everything, like the U.S. Marine Corps, Semper Fi, and all that. But when a U.S. Marine was to go up against a British Marine, who are actually kind of special forces, they find out they're not as good as they thought they were.
Well,
And I'm not disrespecting the U.S. Marines because I take my hat off to anybody who serves because I've served.
well, the older ones are okay; they understand, but it's the young ones. It's like Putin. He doesn't give a shit about his troops. Almost 1.5 million troops have been killed, and he just gets sending young people in. Now he cleaned out his prisons. Now he's even sending elderly people into the battle.
Is he?
Yeah, 40 years old.
I didn't know
Now,
they'd lost that many.
yeah, he's drafting whoever he wants. Say the same thing is happening to Trump. Is that the fact that number one, now he's looking at a draft and drafting people who have no experience. I mean, boot camp was nothing. You learn to basically crawl. You learn to fire a gun, but you never were given any training on how to survive. There's no survival, you know, and there was very little, how would you say it, defensive preparation, no martial arts, no nothing. I mean, the North Koreans, you sit there and they have about 2 or 3,000 soldiers in each group doing martial arts
Wow.
on hand-to-hand combat. I mean, a United States soldier going up against a Korean soldier with martial arts, who do you think is going to win?
That's what I was saying. US Marine, UK Marine. UK Marines is a special commando course.
Yeah,
Only the toughest make it. Whereas,
Yeah.
no disrespect to
Um,
the US Marines, but I reckon most people could pass
I
as
was
long
going to
as they're
get a cap.
reasonably physically fit. Anyway,
I was going to get a cap that said, if our soldiers have a knife and they have a tank, nuke them. Get on a level playing field. But I don't know. The things are getting worse and worse and worse. It's just like I said, remember the vision I told you about things getting worse and worse and worse. It's happening.
what to do then? That's the problem. If
I was going to say we need another arc.
another arc.
Uh, there's so many funny stories. Just like all the things that you'd be surprised how many things are being put on Facebook now about Indigenous people, but they're not doing the right thing. They're not expressing the fact that number one, they're not pushing that we become a human race. They're pushing their own uh, culture. And what they should be doing is showing how we are all together and we do practice one culture in similar ways. But we have to show how we do it so that people will come back and understand that we become a human race again.
Well, I don't know if it's the old saying, divide and conquer. Well, I'm not putting my tinfoil hat on here, but it does seem that instead of the old methods of how they divided and conquered the people through the centuries, now you can do it with the technology, and people are staying at home. They're not going out. They're not socializing. Everything's done. They think they're joining groups, but they're online groups that to whether it's Republicans, Democrats, whether it's indigenous people, whatever. And if you're not part of that, they're attacking people. They're coming up with all sorts of terms for things that mean that if you try to come together and do things, you're wrong, or you're racist, or what's that thing they call it? Cultural appropriation and all that. Well, that's
I was
dividing people, isn't it? Rather than bringing people together.
I was laughing at that. I don't know if you remember the comedian Carlin.
Oh God, yeah.
He was sitting there one day. He said in the World War I, he said it was shell shock. In the Spanish American War in Cuba, it was battle fatigue. In World War II, even though it was still shell shock, in World War II, they said it was it not shell shock?
PTSD.
No, no. PSA came after Vietnam. There was another short. Was started off with shell shock, battle fatigue. I can't even remember what that third one was.
You're killing your joke
It
here.
was it was Patton slapping that one soldier because it was. But anyway, then it came down to the Vietnam War and the post-traumatic stress. He said 10 syllables, but it was longer, so it sounded better, even though it was still cell shock. So if they would have kept it as cell shock, a lot of veterans could have gotten helped. So we went through the whole thing. And it was just, it was so, he comes so much by using humor, but he gets to the point.
A bit
That's what
like
I
Bill
love.
Hicks as well.
Yeah. It's just like he said, how many people here are religious? So they all clap and raise their hand. They said, how many of you go to church on Sunday? They sat down and everything. I said, why do you go to church on Sunday? God rested on the seventh day. He's not there. So I really liked the way he did the humor and everything like that. And he was the one that actually brought it up when I was laughing because he said, you have Hispanic Americans, you have Black Americans, you have Asian Americans, you have white Americans, and then you finally come to the final insult. You have Native American Indian Americans. He goes, they were never Americans. He goes, oh, but I used to get a kick out of him. I was sorry to see him pass because I used to really like his humor.
Well, there's plenty of George Carlin on YouTube
Yeah,
if you want to blast of them.
yeah.
I'll
I
watch
fell
them
down
all.
three steps, four flights of fire. A woman come up and said, "Are you hurt?" And that one I liked the best. I said, "Went to the hotel. They said, do you have a reservation? Do I look like a goddamn Indian?" He goes, so he was quite great. But it's funny that we sit there sometimes and we allow people to get into our heads and everything, and we go so far away from the truth that they're not willing to learn it anymore. Even my friends sometimes are. He sat there and he invents things so he can make money. Him and his wife do things, and all they're doing is drawing people off their pathway. And a lot of people sit there and rather than teaching their own gifts and teaching their own, their own pathway, we try to sell our own. And we need to sit there and start realizing we need to give them tools so they can find themselves. Then when we want to do it, I experimented one time when I was in uh, Little Piccadilly, Middle Piccadilly it called, and had a group of about maybe 30 people. And I had one person sitting in the middle of the circle. And then people had to sit there and see if they could pick up their energy on what was wrong. And a few of them were really good. Some of them, and I don't know, there was one person there that we sat in the middle and nobody could figure him out. They went around and finally got to me and I looked at him, he said, and I looked at him, this person is keeping a lot of emotion trapped inside of him. He's never learned the ability to allow his emotions to come out because he was always brainwashed to think that he couldn't do it. It wasn't right for him to do it. So I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that emotion out. I'm going to pull it into myself. And I started like that and I put it in. I got very much and I started to cry. And the guy in the middle looked at me and all of a sudden tears were running down his what you call he started crying. He finally let the emotion go. And he felt, even he got finished like that, he felt so damn good. He said he could walk on the clouds.
That's good.
And then another time we sat there and we put one person, and like if they were a little bit ill, we had everybody focus on energy, they bring their energy in from their spine, and they would send it to that individual. And by the time the what's called got the next morning, they were cured. So there's a lot of things people can do if they start to understand how we can work together as one to get good results.
The problem, I think, as well, is that some people don't know where to start, maybe, but a lot of people just aren't interested.
Yeah.
Or they're set in their ways, or they don't think they can change. I mean, I don't do the spiritual stuff. Mine's more psychology, but
Yeah.
the amount of times I'll say, right, this thought is not doing you any good. If you reframe it and stuff, this is like family and friends and stuff. And they go, yeah, but I can't. This is how I think. I can't change it. And it's like, yes, you can. You just think you can't change.
It's not what people think, it's what you think. When it comes down to it, if you're satisfied with yourself, you're okay. If you're not, do something about it. Don't listen to other people. Listen to yourself. What do you need? What do you need to be happy and everything? It was like we had that. I used to do a lot of circles and we'd go around, and I'd have the sage burning and I'd watch, and a lot of times I could tell what the sage would talk to me once they got it atop the person's head, and they got when this one lady looked over and I said, like that, and I said, you got to really be careful. He said, why? I said, you're like a chicken, like a hen, and you got eggs, but someone's trying to steal those eggs from you. And her husband was sitting next to her. And I said, and who are you? He said, I'm Weasel. Everybody in there just cracked up laughing. That was good because a lot of humor relaxes people. And he sat there and he said, yes, I'm trying to steal her eggs. I'm trying to get her pregnant. He goes, so it was right on. It's surprising that when people get into that energy state and they feel it, if they get the mind completely out of the things they could see is unbelievable.
Well, isn't it interesting? Over here we have this thing called, um, well, the government surveys. I forgot what it's called now. Summit.gov. But I'm on the email list. Sometimes I fill them in, but they like have a survey for the day. And today's survey was saying if science proved that the soul was completely biological, and there's some report or something that study that's just been done that's saying that it's just chemical, something going on in the brain, and that there's no spirituality and things like that. And so the survey was saying, do you think that science will one day explain everything, to do with spirituality? And in the UK, at the time I took the survey, I think it was 65% thought that that would be possible. And only something like 12% thought, no, it's bollocks, because it's not going to do it.
Well, see, I've always thought in that area saying science will find the magic in reality, and they will come to understand the magic, and they will bring that magic forth. Because, like, even now, when they have such a big thing where people came from, and now they said, well, the people came across the Bering Strait, came into Alaska, and then they came down. And then they found out that people were here before the Bering Strait. So they then had another theory. Then all of a sudden they found footprints that was even older yet. So eventually, by the using of scientific, they're going to finally realize that all life started on Mother Earth here, in America, and that they went out and they came back. But what the factor that they're missing, but they're starting to find out it, is that there was an advanced civilization here long before scientists and air culture actually realized. Now they're starting to uncover things, saying, well, there was something here before, how would you say it, before the ape, before the original man and all that.
You say they're finding these things. However, if they are, and I'm not disputing this, it's not turning up in mainstream scientific journals.
Yeah, if you look, they are coming up. They are in journals, but they haven't really hit
The mainstream.
the mainstream yet. And just like they said, giants. Now they're starting to find skeletons. There were giants, and we had stories of giants way that go way back. And I just like Noah's Ark. Well, they said Noah's Ark. Well, we have our own story about the flood.
Yeah, there are flood stories in most cultures, aren't there?
Yeah.
But I think the fact of there being an ark is a little bit of a push. In fact, when I came to America in 2000, I was in San Francisco in the Hard Rock Cafe
Uh-huh.
talking to a fireman. And California's pretty laid back, isn't it, San Francisco? And this fireman noticed that I was, excuse me, noticed I was wearing this pentagram ring, and he's like, "Hey man, you a devil worshipper?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, no." And I explained about Wicca and nature-based religions, and I said, "I've got no problem with Christianity, but I find it hard to believe that two of every animal went onto a boat." I said, "Think
Hold
about all the species on Earth," and then he went, "Yeah, but there was less species back then." I'm like, "What do you mean less?"
hold your ring up again.
See, there,
Okay.
pentagram.
It's funny how
My
it
friend gave me that.
became, in order for religion to control, they invented stories. Now, what do you call your ring?
It's a pentagram.
Not. That was a word that they utilized it to bring in evil thoughts about it.
Why, the inverted pentagram is a Hollywood invention. I know that.
Yeah, but that's what the energy just said. Is they took something out of it to basically take a certain influence, which is Mother Earth has a lot of influence, so they want to take Mother Earth out of it.
Well, I have to stop there then, because we will be cut off any second now.
Uh-huh.
But next week we will make sure that we're live for anybody who's listening. So if you want to join us on the Human Circle of Life YouTube channel, we will be recording live Monday 9 p.m. UK time. Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. If you'd like to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. The link will be in the description. And don't forget, you can download a powerful guided meditation for free at humancircleoflife.com.